Hey everyone, and welcome back to Rare Liquid. I'm bringing someone who may be a familiar face to you, Cherie, because we had a video a few weeks ago. And today we're going to be focusing just on dating during the MBA experience because that seemed like a pretty popular topic from the last video. So Cherie, do you want to do a brief intro for yourself for those who are watching for the first time?
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Cherie. I recently graduated from Stanford's Graduate School of Business back in June, so Ben and I are the same year out of business school. Most recently, I am working on my own venture with my sister. She and I are podcast hosts of our own podcast, Tiger Sisters, and we started our own matcha company, which launched this week. It's at Sisters Matcha on Instagram, so you can follow us there. And previously, I've experienced working in tech and venture capital.
Yep, and you guys know me. I'll keep it really brief. I worked at JP Morgan as an investment banking analyst, worked on a clothing brand for 2 years as an entrepreneur, then went to business school at Wharton. And then, now I work on Rare Liquid, as you know, since you're on this channel. Now, before we get started, we wanted to add a huge disclaimer at the beginning because we want to give you guys like the real information and insights and personal experiences that we went through throughout our MBA experience. So we're going to be talking about what may not always sound great, but as a disclaimer, I personally, and I think Cherie will also add on, really had a great time throughout the MBA experience. And so is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah. I mean, that's how you know that this episode is going to be juicy because we need to add a disclaimer up front.
True.
Like I loved my MBA experience. It was an amazing 2 years of so much personal, professional, like emotional growth. But, we want to give you guys the real, the tea on like how we see some things. So yeah, disclaimer, we loved our experience, but we get in there. We just
didn't want to hold back.
Yes, we are not holding back.
So we're going to start off with the first question that's going to be a little bit spicy right out of the gate, which is, can you describe or talk about the hookup culture during the MBA experience?
Sure. So this is very spicy, actually. I love that this is the first question. We're diving right into it. Hookup culture at MBA programs, it's a thing. I guess at this point, we're all in our like late 20s, early 30s. And with that, a lot of the MBA comes with partying, going out, drinking, hanging out with each other. And so one thing leads to another. And as you might imagine, hookup culture, especially when you're going on international trips, spending a lot of time with people, it's definitely a thing.
Yeah, I think it's definitely same thing at Wharton. And what I do want to kind of follow up and ask about is, do you feel like even though there is this like hookup culture within the MBA experience, do a lot of those hookups kind of lead to relationships in your experience? Or is there a lot more just hooking up? Like, what's your thoughts and take on that?
Oh, I do think they lead to serious relationships if they go well. At this point, we are older in our lives. People are looking for their partner to settle down with. And I think it does start sometimes from, the hookup culture. But because you're with your classmates all the time, in class, outside of class, in activities, trips, travel, clubs, like you're just spending so much time with a person that the time frame at MBA programs is like shrunken. And so even though like you've known someone for a week and you're hanging out with them, you're seeing them every single day.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference.
In multiple contexts. So timing during like romantic relationships at school is just it's like another universe.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about quote unquote normal dating, if you're in the workforce, you might be seeing your girlfriend or boyfriend 2 to 4 times a week, maybe four if it's a lot.
Okay, well,
right?
Maybe if you're like in a serious relationship. But when you first start dating, it's like 1 date a week.
Yeah, or if it's going well, then 2, maybe, right? But then basically, if you're in school, you have the opportunity to see someone actually 7 days a week if you want.
Yes,
so it's
and
kind of
multiple times a day.
It's like dog years, but for dating. Like 1 week could be like kind of 7 weeks. In quote unquote normal dating.
Yeah. And a lot of the times it starts out as friendships before you start dating someone or even getting into the hookup culture. Like you start out as friends and like classmates because there's like a shared experience there. And everything is amplified in business school because you're spending so much time together. You see a potential partner in so many different contexts.
Oh, that's true.
And in the context of other people as well. Like what are other classmates' perception of this person? So you get that
actually makes a huge difference too. Yeah, I want to double click on that because you do get to see your partner giving presentations in class.
Yes.
Maybe they're like messing up in a speech or something. And then you also see them
Wait,
like
is that a turnoff?
messing up in a speech.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be cute. I feel like with most things, if you like the person, anything they do is attractive.
Yeah, that's
If
fair.
you don't like the person, then anything they do is not
It's
attractive.
annoying.
But yeah, you see them in a class setting, like an academic setting. They may be like raising their hand and providing this really insightful comment, and you're like, oh my god, she or he is so smart, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And then you see
and
them
especially
like,
for nerds, if you see another nerd in the classroom and you're like stimulated or attracted to, drawn to like the intellectual side, then you're like, oh, that was a really smart comment.
yeah, which
like,
a lot of top
that's
MBA
sexy.
students will actually care a lot about.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and then if you also see them in a social setting, right?
Yeah.
And then you also see how people like them in either of those. And what you said about people talking about the people or person you're interested in, I feel like also, at least for me, made a huge impact in terms of like, oh, should I date this person or not?
Yeah, for better, for worse. Because like in a normal relationship outside of business school, like you meet a person and then you introduce them to your friend group. Your friend group gives you feedback like, we like this person or we don't. And that happens like, I don't know, many weeks or months after you guys have started dating. Everything is compressed here.
Months or weeks?
When did you bring your friends to a significant other?
Oh, to meet them. I see. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about just talking. Okay.
No. Like,
Got it.
when do your friends meet
Yeah,
your
yeah.
partner or the person you're dating?
A few weeks at least.
Few weeks at least.
Yeah, at least.
So, but then everything is compressed in business school, and then you're already getting that feedback, solicited or unsolicited, from other people.
Yeah. Cool. I think the other thing I wanted to add about hookup culture, and another thing we can kind of discuss, is do people get the reputation from what you've seen if like they hook up too much? Because business school is very insular. So are there, I mean, I could just speak from what I've experienced at Wharton. Not that I was on that end of the spectrum, but it's more so that when you kind of like have this reputation of hooking up too much, everyone in the circle will kind of know about it within business school, versus I think if you're just on Hinge or like Tinder or something, you're like meeting a bunch of random people, then no one really knows about it.
Yeah.
So I think that's also like this nuance that's only in business school that is related to hookup culture.
Yeah, it's insane because everyone knows everyone else's business in business school, for better or for worse. And nothing is really private for the most part because people talk. And people can see you, like you're on campus, you know, if you guys are hanging out a lot or going to events together, leaving events together, etc. Like people talk.
Yeah, the leaving events together thing.
Notice.
So many times people just see two people leaving after like an event or something like that, and then just word spreads.
Even if it's completely platonic, if people leave,
yeah,
you know what I mean? People love to assume.
Although when it's like two drunk people walking out of a club and they're like holding hands and it's like, yeah, different.
Okay, that's different than like someone walking someone home or something.
Yeah,
like, you know, something a little bit more
true.
innocent. Like people would still assume something is going on.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, like it's pretty hard to keep a relationship a secret because people watch. And I don't know, it's the personality of business school students too to gossip. It's different maybe in other fields where like they're a little less prone to that maybe, like given the personalities. But I don't know. People love the gossip.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying this juicy video, and I wanted to briefly interrupt in case you're interested in applying for MBA programs and one of the obstacles in your way is the GMAT, because I wanted to tell you guys about today's sponsor, Target Test Prep, which I credit a lot for helping me get a 750 on the GMAT. Target Test Prep has been helping students crush the GMAT for 16 years and covers quant, verbal, and data insights for the new GMAT focus, with 52 rigorous chapters broken into over 1,500 lessons, over 4,000 realistic GMAT problems, over 1,300 instructor-led videos, 1,200 digital flashcards for studying on the go, and live online support from GMAT focus experts. Target Test Prep is also the only company on GMAT Club with a perfect 5-star rating, and they also have the highest score improvement guarantee of 130 points. You're able to personalize your study plan based on your strengths and weaknesses, and so if you're interested in TTP, use my code rareliquid15 to get 15% off, and I'll leave information for all of this in this video's description. So that's actually a really good segue to the second question, which is, why do couples sometimes keep their dating and relationship a secret?
The stakes are high in business school in the sense that like the person that you're dating or, you're starting to see, it could be your person for the rest of your life, right? Like these people are hand selected by an admissions committee and being very successful in their career, in their academics, and otherwise as well, which is how they got into the program. So the stakes are high. You're like, oh my God, this could be my person. But in addition to that, it's like great reward, great loss. I don't know, if you're dating someone and it goes well, like, yay, we're married, you're my person for life, you're my soulmate. And then if we break up, it could be disastrous because we still have to attend the same classes, go to the same events, and I have to see you around on campus. And it's different than undergrad because undergrad, usually I feel like it can be bigger campuses, but like it's way smaller in business school, it feels like, and the stakes are higher.
Yeah, I mean, you also went to a school where the class size is a lot smaller.
Yeah,
so
420.
Wharton is literally 2 times as big. But even then, I think your circle of friends will usually be pretty small. So even if you're an 800-person class, then your circle of friends will still probably be at max, 30 to 50. So then if something happens, then your circle of friends could know, and then they'll all chatter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I also think the other thing I wanted to mention in terms of why people keep things a secret is that there's a lot of pressure that can be added onto a potential budding relationship.
Yes.
If you kind of talk about it too much. And I actually had personal experience with this because there was one girl I liked, and then I had told some of my friends, actually it was just mainly one friend who I thought I could trust.
Oh, dang.
And then she freaking told like so many people. And then that just made it really, really like, I don't know, it's added pressure. Things didn't work out eventually anyway, but it was super uncomfortable. And normally if I tell like some of my homies or like my guy friends or like even friends who are girls in an outside setting, like they're not going to interact with that person who I like.
Right.
But then in this
it would
setting,
never get back to them.
So then a lot of my friends who got into relationships at MBA, they did want to keep it private for a while in order to not add this like additional pressure and chatter.
That pressure is so real because people will also, if everyone knows or a lot of people know, they'll also like ask you like, when's this going? How's it going? And you're like, I'm figuring it out on my own terms between my partner and I. Like, I don't need other people. Like, interrogation is like too strong of a word, but just kind of like questioning like every step. Like, have you guys made it official? Like, have you defined the relationship? We're just like, And if that's coming from like a close friend, then we can have that very like, intimate conversation that's personal. But if it's coming from like, just people I'm not close with, it's a bit awkward.
Yeah, but I'm not going to act like I'm not like that I'm some kind of saint, because whenever I would hear about couples getting together or something, I'd be like, what the, like, holy shit, like that's crazy. But I would try not to add too much pressure, like add to the fuel to the fire. All right. So next, our third question is, what are the pros and cons of dating within the MBA program and then outside of it? And I'll take this one first. So I think the pro is that you're going to be able to spend a lot of time in this very special experience that you have, because in 2 years, you're traveling all over the world. You're really exploring like who you are as a human being throughout your entire MBA experience. You're like developing as a leader and like figuring out what you want to do with your life and all that stuff. And you have so many events you go to that are very, very isolated to the business school experience. And you're experiencing all of that together. So that's like a huge pro. And so when you leave and if you find your person, it's like most likely you probably will get married if you were able to stick it through business school and you like enjoy each other's company, you have like all similar friends within the same class. So that can be a great pro.
I think to add on to that, I think it's the power of shared experiences too. It's like you spend 2 years getting to know this person and they get to like be in the class with you and get the references, have, like you said, similar friend group.
Right, the references,
The references of like the professors, the case material. Like it sounds super nerdy, but like that also really builds bonds. And like oftentimes you're going on trips with groups of people and you will just have so much lived shared experiences together. And like, I guess the main point is that, this sounds weird to say, but like people outside of the MBA program often don't get it. Some of the problems we have are like, yes, superficial problems. Like, oh my God, I have to go to 3 parties in one day. Like it sounds ridiculous. I understand that to people who are outside, or like, the problems that we have, the gripes we have, the experiences we have, it's so distinct and unique that like only a person that's going through it with you will understand it. And that's really beautiful. So I think that's a pro. And that's something that you guys will hold together for life. And you'll be able to go to reunions together.
Yep. The con is actually the flip side of that, which is that especially if you start dating someone earlier in the MBA experience, then you likely will want to spend a lot of time with that person. And then even if it's during your second year, then you end up spending so much time together, and it takes away from the other, I guess, like quote unquote opportunity cost of meeting other people, going to events. And I think you also can arguably develop maybe not so much more, but in a very different way if you're single throughout part of the MBA experience versus if you're in a relationship. So there's definitely pros and cons, right? You get the specialness of going through it together, but then you also lose part of how you will kind of develop as a person and what kind of experiences you go through when you're dating someone.
It goes back to the idea of you developing as an independent person in those last 2 years, or is there really like a dependency there where yes, you're growing, but like you're growing with someone else? And another con is that if you guys are like super, entangled and like super serious and you go through those 2 years together, it can be a beautiful experience and you leave with your, partner for life. But then people might know you as like a duo instead of knowing you as an independent individual. So that's a risk. And that can be mitigated if you go in super intentionally to be like, I want to do these things alone and be super solid on my own, which people do. But, you do run the risk of just being overly dependent.
Yeah, and I could give an example of that just to, make this a lot more clear. But I think this is like a really small, but I think it paints the picture well, where let's say I was planning a dinner and there's 800 people in my class, right? And I'm trying to get to know everyone, and I can only do so many of these dinners, and I want to invite, let's say, someone named John, but he's going out with Sarah. And then I will have to, maybe I'll invite John, but maybe he'll be like, oh, can Sarah also come? But I'll be like, I don't really have that much space. It's like a 5-person dinner.
And you're not going to be like, no, she can't come, because that'd be
So then sometimes,
awkward.
I think not all people, but they may factor this and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't invite John to this one because then Sarah's probably going to come. So I'll just invite like a few other people who aren't in relationships. I don't think that's always the case. And people are very actually welcoming of, couples and stuff like that, of course. But I think it can play a factor.
Yeah, totally. I would say another thing that I've seen is that there is like an emphasis on like couples hanging out with each other or doing double dates.
Oh, yeah.
And as someone who was in a relationship, like that was really fun to then interact with people as couples, because like a different side of people come out, and it's really sweet and amazing to see them in that way.
Yeah. So a lot of pros and cons.
Pros and cons. You get to meet your soulmate, possibly, or have the worst heartbreak of your life, possibly.
Hey guys, if you're watching this video because you're interested in breaking into a top MBA program, then I recently announced liquidMBA, which is my own how to get into MBA course. And in there, we go over exactly what you need to know and what admissions committees look for as you build out your MBA applications. We also have admitted essays from the top schools, so you can see what it really takes to write a killer essay. And lastly, a lot of really specific insights and information for each school, including essay advice, how to build out your entire application, cater them to each school. And so if you're interested, I'll leave a link to liquidMBA in this video's description. Okay, so next question is, what are the biggest red flags when you're dating an MBA student?
Yeah, so business school is an amazing but also very weird experience because it mixes the personal and professional side. It's very intertwined. So like while you're trying to be a professional and advance your career, you're also meeting your best friends who you get to know very deeply and personally. So one of the biggest red flags I would say in that vein is that like if things are going well with your partner, you tend to share that with your classmates, your friends. And if things are not going well, you'll also share some of the problems that you're having. But like everyone is part of the same circle and the same like group. So then, it might not be good because then people are just talking about like private business that then like leaks out into like the professional world as well.
Yeah. And this goes back to the theme of MBA, the experience being so insular
Yeah.
and just
Everyone knows everything.
yeah, it's kind of like I guess like if you go into a high school, then it's probably like a similar experience like that.
Oh yeah.
It's just weird
so like
because
high
everyone's
school.
older now, you know?
But the same themes emerge that we experienced when we were like 16, 17 in high school. We're experiencing it a decade later.
Yeah.
Like it feels like we're in high school again.
Yeah. I guess people are just people at the end of the day.
Oh, dang.
When it comes to red flags for me, from what I've seen, I think it has to do with guys or girls who are just not picky enough. So, for example, if there are people who just ask too many people out or are just maybe too aggressive, and then word kind of spreads about that. And then that just creates a reputation for yourself of like, does this person actually, are they actually interested in me or not? And so I think that is like a big red flag that I've seen.
Yeah. I think one of the tips I would have if you are in an MBA program or thinking about going into an MBA program and like we're kind of scaring you about this world, it's like, it's really a beautiful experience because you can get to know people as friends first. And understand who they are as a person in the classroom, outside of the classroom, before diving into something super serious. And like, I think that's the really special part is that like you can move slowly and be friends first and understand their character.
Yeah, you've been using the word beautiful and special a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's how anyways.
Okay, move on to the next question. All right, last question, which I think is kind of a spicy one, is that a lot of people joke that MBA stands for married but available. Can you go more into this?
Oh my God. As much as I hate this, I feel like it is something we should talk about. That I think there is a lot of cheating that happens in the business school program.
Yeah, I mean,
it's awkward.
Yeah.
It's horrible. People know about it. People
Yeah.
do it very carelessly.
So
wait, sorry. People do
go
it
ahead.
very. Let me not say careless. People do it. People do it and get themselves into trouble without giving it much thought, and it's actually quite sad.
Yeah. There's actually this crazy story. So to provide some context first, Wharton has something called Follies, which I know a lot of other schools have.
I don't know what that is.
So basically, it's almost like a Broadway-ish type show at the end of the year where we have like a bunch of writers who write out a script.
Oh, we have that too. It's called GSB Show.
Yeah, exactly. And then, but Wharton goes really hard.
Yeah.
And then, so for an entire year, basically, everyone who knows who the Follies writers are, and the Follies writers will also try to like get a lot of like the juicy information and
the
gossip
jokes and
throughout the
everything.
year. And then at the show, they'll basically just like have references or like
Roast.
make an actual script about like crazy stuff that happened. But essentially, I think 4 or 5 years ago, there was a lot of these jokes about this one guy being way too close, who was married or in a relationship. He was being way too close with this other girl. And so they kept showing those references throughout the show. And then eventually the girl who was in that relationship with the guy was in the audience watching it and basically found out that he was cheating on her through Follies.
Oh my goodness.
And then, yeah, I don't know what happened to that relation. Obviously, it probably didn't work out. But ever since then, Follies actually had to get nerfed down a little bit and not be as aggressive about that kind of stuff. But I mean, imagine like you're in an auditorium with 1,500 people, because that's how many people who watch Follies, and then you find out that your significant other is cheating on you.
Through the show, we
Yeah.
find out. That's crazy.
So that's one of the crazy stories.
And
I've also
unfortunate.
seen a handful of people who were in relationships, not just boyfriend, girlfriend, but also married,
Yeah.
just get very aggressive with and make out and stuff like that with people in our class or maybe outside our class at like the clubbing events and stuff like that.
It gets messy.
So
It's
yeah,
really
super messy, and your reputation really takes a hit if you do that.
Oh my God, of course. People feel like they can't. Well, I think it's a like a reflection of personal character, personal decision making. And then how does that bleed into the professional world if you're going to cheat on the person that you're supposed to be like committed to for the rest of your life?
Yeah. How did you feel about like the professional versus social relationships, if that makes sense? So like, when you're meeting someone and then you want to like for me in an ideal world, I just want to genuinely be friends with people because of like who they are and if I enjoy their company and all of that. But then in an MBA experience, there is a lot of this like additional component, right? Like what is their work experience, and then where are they working in the future? Like how did you think, or did that impact you at all as you were making friendships?
It doesn't impact how I meet people and how I like want to interact with people, because I'm like, you're nice, we have a lot in common, like we should hang out. But I would be totally remiss to like mention that like, yeah, well, I think a lot of people are very calculated in business school about who they surround themselves by, because it brings some social or professional cachet to their lives. And like there are social climbers in that way. And I mean, the majority of people that I've met are very kind and like very nice and want to get to know you as a person, just because that's who they are and they care about you genuinely. But there is like a small percentage of people who, I don't know, it's like, for me, it's very off-putting, because like they only care about you because of what you can provide them. And it feels very transactional, which I absolutely like hate.
Right.
But I did experience some of that from other folks, but not a lot. The majority of the people were just nice because they care. But I don't know, some people write you off because they're like, oh, I don't feel like you can provide anything. And that's just horrible.
Yeah. We're actually going to leave it at that, because if you enjoyed this video, then in the future, we want to make one about like MBA drama, and then also one about like career advice and networking tips and like MBA applications, stuff like that. So let us know down in the comments if you are interested and want to learn more about certain topics. I'll also leave links to everything that Cherie is working on. You should check out her Instagram, TikTok, and all of that stuff, and her YouTube channel. But yeah, with that said, thank you guys for tuning in, and hope to catch you in the next one.
Yes. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.